Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to Marathon 2. We're continuing 6,000 feet under. I just got into the first save point. You know, I'm curious, can you make this jump? Oh, damn, I totally couldn't make the jump. Especially from, you probably don't even need to shoot if you're up at the higher. Damn, alright, okay. Still got a full triple. What did that... Oh, alright. The 4 fleet has won, and Tycho is with them. My ship is crippled. I am trying to make an emergency landing on Milan's second moon, Yaloa. Your current position is too deep underground for me to teleport you out when we are finished here. There is a series of old Svit terminals in the area, and if you can find them, I may be able to use them to amplify your teleport signal. Look everywhere. The answer to our questions must be here, but you must hurry. I will need you with me soon. So... yeah, it's Durandal's getting fucked up right now. Okay, what did that switch do? What the fuck did that switch do? God damn it. Did it raise? Oh, it's... oh, whatever. Alright. Okay, so all the Afflicta are still alive. Okay, that's raised now, but let's kill this guy because I don't want him to come back and get me later. There we go. Alright. Wait, what was over here? They're just gonna loop back around? That would actually be great. Oh, come on, I fired before that. Okay, yeah, I think I'm trying to drain this lava to get across, or maybe a bridge will raise up, I forget. What? Where are you going? God damn it. I probably should have taken that path that was down there earlier. Since we're here, might as well read this. We, the Olders of Svit, united finally, but doomed, have released the Skitlactor in the Citadel. These aliens enter. Let these aliens enter here, and they will be destroyed. Oh, okay. They didn't really explain what the Skitlactor are, but my understanding is that they're essentially the Flood from Halo. Bungie was initially going to put the Flood in this game, but as Mandalore said, they decided to just flood the levels of water instead. Okay. Alright, I think this is going to be a dead end over here, because we have not fully opened everything up yet. waste of a shell. Okay. This is how you get lost. Alright, we're gonna take this back. Go back down the way that we... to take that one lava path. I actually should probably save it. Can't remember exactly how close the save. Let's see, can I get to the save point easily from down here? I think I can actually, because that little connector. Yeah. There we go. Okay. So back up. Back here. Over here. Do I have... no. Okay. There's no switch that I press over here? Really? Are you serious? Okay, let me just do one double check just to make sure I didn't miss anything, because I'm probably not gonna... okay, yeah, that's where we ended up earlier. Yeah, I mean, I guess there's nothing in here. No button or anything. Okay. Guess it was up here. Then over here. That's where we drop down to save. We go across. No. Fuck. God damn it. Whatever. Okay. That is still not open. This is just to get... I believe this just takes me right back. Yeah, okay. That's fine. We will continue this way. Okay, and there's the skill actor terminal. Maybe I'm supposed to drop down there? No, because it looks like I've already been there. Yeah, that's the safe one. Okay. So this way, no. So I think it... does it have... no, oh yes, alright. This little side path. I missed that so many times. So like I'm running over here, I'm like, what the fuck, what am I supposed to... and you get over here and it's like kind of naturally like loops you back to where you started from. But what you're actually supposed to do is drop down here. Yes, and there's something. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. There's like you. I was like walking down this path and I saw this little opening up here. I was like, how the fuck do you get in there? Like, oh yeah, you just gotta jump across. Okay, what the fuck? Let's read. All right. The ships came again today. It was night, I believe, although with all the fires and without rest it was indistinguishable from day. We are losing, it is obvious, but none of the elders have shown it yet. The enemy does not appear interested in arbitration, though we have not sought it. Question mark believes that the invaders are slavers. Svitlar was overrun last rotation and tens of thousands of prisoners taken. I think these are supposed to be like alien super beings. But who knows? Because of Marathon Infinity, when in some of the dream sequences you see those guys plus these flying guys, and none of it is ever explained. It's never really explicitly explained. So who the fuck knows what any of it means? Yeah, there we go. All right. I think we can just go down. There we go. Okay. Now back up. Alright, let's read this. In primordial space, timeless creatures made waves. Oh god, the waves. The tides. These waves created us and the others. Waves were the battles were waves. Fleeing all Workin Kakantur, Yarrow and Pythias settled upon Lawan. They brought the Sphit servants who began to shape the deserts of Lawan into marsh and sea, rivers and forests. They made sisters for Lawan to protect and maintain the paradise. When the Workin Kakantur came, Pythia was killed, and Yarrow, in anger, flung the Workin Kakantur into the sun. The sun burned them, but they swam on its surface. Yarrow became an angry master, bleeding for his failure, grieving for the loss of Pythia. He broke the Sphit into 11 clans and spread them over Lawan. As he spoke, yet covered in blood from his exertion. I, Yarrow, who was your master, have failed to preserve you. Take your royalty to guide you, and live upon the paradise that you built for me. Alright, so this is another very important terminal in the lore, in the overall lore of Marathon. So I don't know if the Yarrow and the Workin Kakantur are like some of the first ever beings, you know, that to ever live in the universe. That kind of is what it sounds like. I don't know if timeless creatures made waves. It doesn't say who made the waves. It doesn't say if Yarrow and Pythia or the Workin Kakantur made the waves. But either way, the waves were created, and then through the waves, all of existence was created. Yarrow and Pythia are probably Yarrow beings, Yarrow super beings. They're fleeing the. All right, let's try to sound this out properly. Workin Kakantur. I've heard some people say it's the W is silent, so it's Rickencanter, Rackencanter. I kind of like that one more just because it's easier to say, honestly, but we'll see. So the Workin Kakantur are, you know, they're essentially the darkness from Destiny. They're just this kind of unknowable dark force. It's not really explained if it's like if they're monsters or if they're, you know, like what these things even look like, how many there are, how big they are, you know. But they were so the Sphit theory that I talked about in the last video is true. The Sphit were basically maybe they weren't literally Flicta that were implanted with cybernetic Yarrow chips, but they were non-sentient life forms like the Flicta that Yarrow and Pythia decided to put their cybernetic brain enhancing chips into just to try to turn them sentient, and it worked. It did turn them sentient, and so during all this, Yarrow and Pythia were also in some sort of wave battle with the Workin Kakantur, and so they were running away from the Workin Kakantur. They brought the Sphit with them, and in fact, they may have created this fit for the sole purpose of helping them escape the working cactus. And then they had this fit reshape the deserts of Lawan into marsh and sea, and they created the moons of Lawan as well. Then the working cactus showed up. They killed Pythia. Euro got really pissed. He flung them into the sun, but the sun did not kill them. As to how many there are, who the fuck knows? The sun did not kill them, but they are inside the sun. They're swimming on the surface of its sun. And after that, Yarrow essentially got really depressed and turned into, Luke Skywalker from The Last Jedi. Pretty much like exiled himself, sounds like. The Sphit were all just one united species that existed purely to serve Yarrow. But after his queen died, I don't know if Pythia's ever actually stated to be male or female, or if Yarrow is male or female, but I will assume that Yarrow is a man and Pythia is his wife. After his wife was killed, he got all depressed, exiled himself, broke the Sphit up into 11 clans, and said, I have failed you, I have failed, and you built this world, you developed this desert planet into a marshland, a paradise. You can stay here. I'm gonna go. Peace. And he left. And that was like thousands of years before the Sphit Civil War, where the 11th clan broke off. So I think in the time between when Euro left and the Sphit Civil War, the Sphit creation myth kind of was lost to time, and people, I don't think the general Sphit population was super aware of Euro. So a lot of them, that's why they all thought that, like, oh, well, we're all sentient because we have cybernetic implants in our brains, so therefore sentience must require a cybernetic implant. And it wasn't until they dissected some dead 4 that they realized that the 4 have no cybernetic implants, and thus maybe sentience without cybernetics is in fact possible. And thus maybe this myth about us being servants created by Euro is true. And I mean, unless this terminal is a blatant lie, then that all is true. Now, you may think, what would happen if you took one of those fancy Yarrow chips and instead of putting it into a slime monster, you put it into a human? And maybe, what if you put it into the greatest human soldier who ever lived? Maybe that human soldier's physiology had been slightly altered by another sleeping working cactus. Perhaps. I wonder what would happen. Okay, so don't exactly remember what the fuck. Okay. Go back. So when I say that Marathon is just an inherently interesting game, and there's a lot to talk about, especially in terms of the lore, that's what I mean. It's all like, you have to kind of piece it together slowly, but it is a very compelling story as to, like, it's not really a story, it's kind of like the Bible, like there's no main character of the Bible. It's not like a traditional story with a protagonist. It's just kind of lore, like the Bible. Like the Bible or like Warhammer 40k lore, it's like it's just kind of it's just history, and I think it is just very interesting when history is well written like that. I mean, this is all fake history. This, of course, none of this is real. This is fiction, but science fiction. But I just think it is very fascinating, and games nowadays, they kind of tend to spoon feed the players a little bit, and when a game actually has the balls to make the player work to decipher the story, it does take some work, and you kind of have to use your brain, but it can be worth it. So just Just another reason why I think Marathon is such an excellent game, despite, you know, it's seemingly having quite a few limitations. But the truth is that limitations can sometimes, not always, they can sometimes actually be good. It is entirely possible to give the player too much freedom and too much control. You know, like it's a fine balance. If you try to spoon feed the player too much, like they're just not going to care about anything because it's all just going to. If the player never has to try or really give any effort, like they're not really going to care about anything. And that's part of the reason why, you know, games like Dark Souls are so popular, because they require legitimate effort. And, you know, it feels good to overcome something that required a lot of effort. Something that was difficult and required lots of effort. It is of... Oh shit, what the fuck? What is happening? God damn. Okay, I don't know what the fuck that was, but... Alright, let's just clear out this, shit. Like, so, for instance, I recently played through Death Stranding, and I actually very much enjoyed Death Stranding. I've beaten both games now, and but you know, I think I have a little bit more patience than your typical game, you know, your typical gamer. So I was willing to allow Death Stranding, you know, to frustrate me a little bit, and in that frustration, you kind of learn. Basically, you kind of learn that the frustration is part of it. like the reason. Oh shit, I forgot. The reason that a game like that can make you feel good is just because, you know, even though Death Stranding is not necessarily like a super difficult game, it's just a very there's a very deliberate way you have to play the game. You know, just walking is kind of hard. Even just walking in a straight line is not super easy in Death Stranding. So, like, you know, it just requires a little bit more attention, a little more care, and that has the effect of making the game... Shit, he's gonna blow me up! God damn it. I didn't even think about being blown back into the lava. I was just worried about taking damage from the explosion. But so at the same time, my roommate was playing through Death Stranding, and he kind of hated it. Like, there were bits and pieces that he liked. Like, he liked the combat, but there was so much other extra bullshit. And there is. Like, I would go as far as to say that Death Stranding is not really a third-person action game. Like, I mean, it is, but it's like basically... Death Stranding is like basically just Metal Gear Solid, but you have to walk on foot to every mission. Rather than like having a loading screen and then a helicopter just drops you off and the mission starts, you have to walk to the mission. There we go. And it just kind of requires a bit of a... You kind of have to rewire your brain a little bit to get to the point where that's like acceptable. But once you do, like, there's a reason that a lot of people hate Death Stranding and a lot of people love Death Stranding. Because a lot of people just simply aren't able to overcome the initial kind of hump, you know. But so I was able to overcome the initial hump, and I actually grew to love those games. I learned to love the games, but my roommate was not as successful. I knew playing through the game that there comes a point where you can't do everything. You just simply can't. My roommate did not accept that. He is the type of person, like he played through the PS4 Spider-Man games, like Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, Miles Morales, and Amazing Spider-Man 2. He played through all those, and I think he 100%ed each one. But he just he burned himself out of the game. Like he can't stand playing those games anymore as a result. And he tried to do the same thing with Death Stranding, and it just didn't work. Like Death Stranding, if you try to do everything in that game, you will never pick up every single package that's on the ground. You will never be able to part of the game is designed around having to just leave stuff behind. Like there's a certain point where you realize I can't pick everything up. I just have to keep going. My roommate didn't accept that. He just basically just tried bashing his head against the wall, trying to pick up every little piece of scrap materials he could find, and he burned himself out. The game just that is a game that gave the player a bit too much freedom, in my opinion. And the problem is that sometimes when you give the player too much freedom, they will just they're going to grow to hate the game. And that's basically what happened to my roommate. Okay, now that we saved it, I'm curious. Whatever, actually. Let's read these. But so yeah, and I mean, I don't even. He doesn't have a PC, so he wouldn't be able to play Marathon anyways. But he would not care for this game either. But it's just, of course, different games are going to appeal to different people. But my roommate and I do like a lot of the same games. We're playing Battlefield 6 right now, and we're both loving it. We're going to play Resident Evil when it comes out pretty soon. At the time of recording, probably by the time this uploads, Resident Evil 9 will have already come out. But we're both eagerly anticipating those games, and Battlefield does give the player a lot of freedom, but it's a multiplayer game, so that's different. But as far as a single player game, Resident Evil is much more kind of just refined. Resident Evil kind of knows when to hold back and when to go all out, and when to let the player kind of run wild, and when to kind of strip things back. Resident Evil is it's much closer to the Marathon in terms of just the curated experience. Of course, the games are nothing alike, but the developers have a lot more control over what the player does in both Resident Evil and Marathon. Death Stranding, a game like Death Stranding where it's just open world. Sometimes the open world can be too open. And when that happens, it doesn't necessarily mean the game's bad, but it just means that the player has to kind of regulate a lot of what they're doing, and not every player knows to do that. And I'm sure every player is capable of doing that, but not every player knows when and when not to do that. And that is one reason that Death Stranding is such a polarizing game. It's not just a walking simulator, but that's what it looks like to people who don't want to take the time to kind of actually get to know the game. Which to be fair, you shouldn't have to. When people say, "Oh, it gets good after the first hour," like that, you shouldn't have to sit through an hour of bullshit just to get to the fun part of the game. Like the whole game should be the fun part. But they're just people have different preferences. So, me personally, I love Death Stranding. First game, I think I like the story of the first game a little bit more than the second game, but the second game, gameplay wise, is a lot better. There's just a lot of little quality of life improvements. So, if you are a PlayStation player and haven't played Death Stranding, I highly recommend it. That it really has nothing to do with Marathon, but but trying to loop it all back together. Marathon does not give the player nearly as much freedom as Death Stranding. Marathon's not an open world game. I don't even think open world games were even really a thing at this point. But it's just they're kind of two extreme examples. Death Stranding, you can kind of go anywhere you want, even if it's a problem. Like you can fuck yourself over in Death Stranding if you want, by just kind of traveling around too much, and your shoes will wear out or something, and you might pick up too much stuff and you won't be able to walk properly. It's very possible to go overboard in Death Stranding. Marathon is kind of the opposite. You can only save when there's a save point. You can only heal at health stations. And it's all like you have to talk to the terminals to finish levels or stand by teleporters. So it's like they're just kind of two opposite ends, you know. I feel like with Death Stranding, Kojima is able to create an experience somehow, even though the players are able to do everything and go wherever they want. Like my roommate and I both had similar experiences and levels. Like I remember there was one part where we both were at full capacity, and we were at like one of the earlier levels in Death Stranding 2, and we were both like, and when you're at your capacity, you can't walk very fast. So you're basically just crawling. So we were both crawling to this base, and then a song starts playing like right when you like start to run out of, right when your exoskeleton runs out of battery, or like maybe you ran out of energy or something, like right as you really start to slow down, the game started playing music to kind of kick things back up for you, just to kind of help you keep going. And we both had that exact same, that happened for both of us at the exact same point when we were doing the exact same thing. Even though it's a game where you can technically do whatever you want, Kojima is good enough to know that basically every player is going to end up in this situation at this time, no matter what circumstances led them up to there. So it is that reason that a lot of people say Kojima is a genius. I don't necessarily think that just that alone makes him a genius. He probably is a genius for other reasons, but then on the flip side, like there was a level in Marathon One. The levels in Marathon Ones that don't have save points, like I said, when saves are limited, they become a very valuable resource. So, just the Marathon developers are able to kind of curate these experiences. It's a little more frequent when you come across these like really tense situations and you haven't had a save point in a while. That's kind of their like ultimate weapon, so to say. But those are just even more reasons that these games are good. Like, if a game that looks like this can kind of hold a similar status in my head as a game that looks like Death Stranding, which, Death Stranding is an absolutely gorgeous video game. Some of the best graphics probably ever. But, like in terms of technological advancement, of course, Death Stranding is more advanced, but, this still feels like it was developed with a similar level of care, which is, just kind of crazy to think about, because this was made by a much smaller team, over 20 years ago, but over 30 years ago. But it just shows that effort, like when people making something care, it shows in the final product. When something is made with care, it is usually good in at least some ways. Like you can just tell that they were trying, they cared, and they wanted to make a good video game, and I think that's very commendable, and it is sadly something that is not so common these days. But all right, that's enough rambling. Let's read these terminals, and that'll most likely be the end of the level. Okay, the royalty of the clans shared their knowledge of the Svitkur, each master holding a line of the truth in secret and another line in common. Each clan possessed 2 pieces of the whole, gifts from the Svitkur before departing. We know the truth of the 11th clan, that they awaited our unity to join us again. These tunnels will be flooded and sealed. Any who find this place can learn the final message of the Svitkur, but we have no time to decipher its meaning. And I guess this is the message. Clea, whom we have taken between Yaloa and Tajia, all in a line. Replace Clea with the marsh, take the place to be the mark. Mark the time from our exodus. Every 459,231 rotations, search the Tajia side, quarter way to the sun, around and under the marshes. When all are one, the Svitkur will return. So after the Svitkur left, so the Svit were all one united clan before Yarrow left, and Yarrow split the Svit into 11 clans, and then he left in exile. It's not confirmed, but I have a feeling that after that, Yarrow went to Earth and warned them and incited the events that started Pathways into Darkness. Or maybe not, who knows. But then 1,000 years after that, I think, the Svit had a civil war. So Spit had already broken up into 11 clans. They had a civil war. The 11th clan left the planet on the moon, which the moon also was like slingshotted out of orbit. Um, and then the 4 attacked. But I guess before the 11th clan left, they said, if all the other 10 clans can reunite, then we will return, and the Spit will be whole again. And then they will be more powerful, and but that didn't happen in time. The surviving of 10 clans were not able to contact the 11th in time, and now we're here. So let's read this. Durandal's probably going to be like, "Oh, you've discovered the secret." But so this terminal is saying, essentially, to summon the 11th clan, just the other 10 clans need to reunite themselves first and go to a specific location, I think, and then the 11th clan will appear. We have the answer, but I'm afraid that, like the ancient Spit, I may be destroyed before being able to use it. I must bring you up to Boomer. The 4 clearly intend to capture my ship intact, and I can't blame them for wanting to reverse engineer all the improvements I've made to their stolen technology. I'd have erased my 7 times table. Okay. I'd have erased my 7 times table to hear what the combat technicians on the Kafiva shouted when they learned I could focus a particle beam at nearly twice their maximum range. Today I have forced the 4 Naval Academy to update its curriculum. The 3rd battle for Beta Terror must be dropped from the 7 great battles, which every aspiring 4 naval officer must memorize, and be replaced with the humbling of Battle Group 7 at Lawan. Ooh, now we're back to Durand. They got shot down. Oh, God. They got shot down by Admiral Fear, and so now Marathon Guy is coming back onto the ship, trying to kill the 4 that are here, and maybe save Durandal somehow. So I think, yes, there's a save point in Ryan. Alright, we will read that terminal in the next episode. Not welcome. Thank you very much for watching. That'll be all for today's episode. If I had a rocket launcher, I'd make somebody pay. This is actually kind of a fun level. There are a lot of pretty hard fights, and we're back on the 4 ship with all these really weird colors. I will say the colors in this game, particularly in these levels, they are very bright, they are very vibrant, and, very striking, but sometimes they can be a little, not ugly, but like kind of ugly, like these are just like, it's just a lot, it's just it's a lot to be kind of shoved into your eyeballs at once, but we got our 2nd shotgun, hell yeah, dude. Yeah, alright, that is all for today. We will continue in the next video with if I had a rocket launcher, I'd make someone pay. So hope you guys enjoyed. Went a little long about my rant about Death Stranding, but that's why I make these videos, because I love these games, and I want to be able to share them with people, and my goal is to make you feel the same way that I do about these games. If I can help someone feel the same way about Marathon that I do, then I consider that, I consider that a win. So, if you're enjoying the videos, please, leave me a comment. Let me know what your favorite levels are, or anything like that. Whether you like these, the swimming. Please leave a comment if you like the swimming in Marathon too. That'll be a good discussion. So, all right, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.